Uh, okay, thank you. So this DevOps training module starts today. It's a session one. So we are majorly discussing on the couple of topics on AWS DevOps and its related industry best practices. So this training majorly focuses on building up some industry-ready use cases, real-time use cases, building, demonstrating, executing, and providing that as a solution for the customers or the clients. Okay, so we will be taking up some real such use cases, like for example, building a web application and hosting that on AWS EC2 or Elastic Beanstalk or backed by a ECS container, and setting up the CI/CD for that application using Jenkins, or it can be GitLab or GitHub Actions. And yes, 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 Sai Prakash. So that recording will be on the backend. So it will not be visible on the meeting. So I'll be sharing the recording. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so we'll be dealing more like setting up such regular scenarios where, like for example, we'll start with a small scenario of building a sample web app, setting up the CI/CD, and then we go into more complex scenarios where we generally see in our day-to-day use cases. So by taking this training, we are more focusing, like after completing this training and this modules, the person should be readily available to work into any kind of client facing roles or the project roles, and set up his or her credibility over the project and teams, and start engaging with the clients or customers, and start being productive. Okay, so this course is not where we are looking for some simple scenarios and crack some certifications. Absolutely, this will help in cracking your certifications and all, but we majorly focus on deep diving on the services and actually learn it conceptually and learn it more experimentally. So rather than only theoretical on the documentation, so we generally more focus on experimental learning. So we'll do the use cases together. We will learn it and we will implement, and we'll explore the more and more terms there. Okay, so that's on AWS DevOps training what we deal on. So that's all I've spoke about the goal. So this training mainly focuses on learning industry readiness on skills like whatever I said, like AWS DevOps, Python, and its related best practices. So we'll be solving this one by one. The use cases, it can be a couple of day basis. There can be some use cases which takes weeks of time to solve, and this adds what do you say, a credential or a credibility to you, either on your GitHub or LinkedIn or your professional portfolios, where you have built such scenarios which are more or less the same what you get in industries. Okay, so a quick introduction about myself is, this is Manish. So I'm holding more than 8 years of experience in AWS and DevOps areas, where I've been working with multiple clients, customers, and different business domains like banking, finance, ERPs, as well as some data integration platforms, and so many other client-facing roles have been worked on, and implemented quite a few of DevOps CI/CD setups right from the scratch, and also managed and deployed a huge number of infrastructures on cloud using cloud formations or AWS, using some Terraform modules, and set up some critical infrastructures, and made some really reliable and scalable infrastructures on the cloud. So we'll see that in step by step. So we'll not rush on the things, rather we'll just clearly understand what the service is for, and what actually we use in the industry or in the software industry, why actually we use that particular service, and how we use that particular service. Okay, so coming back to the session or the agenda for this session. So today we'll just give a complete overview. We'll just not much start on the services or something. We'll just have some introduction to cloud computing. So, and have some overview on like what are traditional servers, and what versus what is cloud computing, and why this AWS is so popular, and we'll just also see, I'll just show you how you can create your AWS free tier account. It's pretty much simple, like how you create an account on any of the web-based application. You just log into the portal and sign up, give the credentials, set up your usernames, passwords, and provide some credit card, debit or credit cards. So that will be done. And okay, sure, Prakash. So we will touch base and just we'll just go through that. Okay. Yep, and we'll also see on some of the overview of the AWS products and services. So we'll see what are the major products we'll be touching base, and like what are the other services we'll be using. Okay, so coming back to the introduction on this cloud computing, as we have all seen, this cloud computing has been more emerging recent days because of its like rational usage across the industries and across the products. It's not like cloud computing is only for software industry. No. It's for every thing which is connected to internet is directly or indirectly connected to the cloud. So traditionally, cloud computing is nothing but it's not where you host your servers somewhere across the data centers on the satellites or something like that. So there is always a myth when you are early of your careers in your bachelor's or something. Cloud computing is something where the communication starts with over the cloud, I mean like the satellites or something. It's not like that. So the cloud computing is nothing but you have a shared infrastructures as a data centers. So these data centers generally look like a very huge markets. Like for example, if you see a DMart or if you see a wholesale mart, how big it is, it will be like 10 to 100 times more bigger, and it will be situated at remote locations with high internet, with high accessibility for internet, with high speed internet, and a lot of many things, and it will be highly available. And so this shared infrastructure will be provided to the users, and this shared infrastructure will be provided as a part of the vendors, like it can be Amazon will be having its shared infrastructure, and Azure will be having its, and GCP will be having its shared infrastructure. So people start utilizing this by having their account, and they ask like, "Hey Amazon, I want to run my application, so I want a shared infrastructure somewhere around Mumbai or somewhere around US North Virginia, because my users are located near that North Virginia region, or my users are located in or around India. So I want a data center. I mean, not complete data center. I want some part of, like for example, I want a 1 TB of hard disk and like couple of gigs of RAM with a server running. I want to host my web application. I want to use it. Okay, so this is where the cloud computing has been emerged, because previously the businesses or the corporates have end up in spending a lot and lot of amount of money on their infrastructure, especially maintaining the servers. If you go back about 20 to 25 years ago, we used to have a huge server rooms in each and every office, okay, where we used to have a high internet bandwidth and high internet connectivity to that servers and a server maintenance. If something goes wrong on that particular region using some because of some natural calamities or something, we used to have a lot of downtime. Previously, when we used to host our government applications, we used to have a downtime when there is a huge rainfall at a particular place. But now we are not seeing that because of the cloud computing. Okay, so correct, correct. So this is only majorly because of just a second. So this is majorly because of the disaster recovery mechanisms what we make, and also greater compatibility and resource scaling and the resource pooling. So these terms all we speak when we go to AWS, or when we speak upon the services. Okay, so this accessing data from any time or anywhere, this is made possible only after utilizing the cloud computing. And we have also ensured like we are having a greater connectivity, because previously we used to have a lot of bandwidth issues, but now we are able to connect to multiple resources across the globe without any latency. Okay, so there's cloud computing and huge data bandwidths and huge mbps. It's more gigs we are connecting, and that's how we have having a less latencies and less amount of disaster recovery. So when we speak about this disaster recovery, it's something says about like hosting your application at multiple locations. Okay, so previously when we used to have a traditional server, so we'll just come to that topic. So this disaster recovery, majorly this is a major concern for any e-commerce applications or 25 24 by 7 running applications. Let us say you are working on an insurance company, and your application should not have any downtime. It should be having a zero downtime, because there might be people who are applying for insurance, or there might be people who are applying for claims and all. So you should not have that any downtime. So at that particular time, they will host the application at 2 to 3 different regions. Understanding that, for example, if region 1 is having some kind of issues or some kind of natural calamities which led to disconnect to the internet connectivity, the other regions will work as is. And this platform independence will just speak in detail, which is nothing but hosting your application across the platforms. So this is majorly we speak when we come into Docker, containers, Kubernetes and all. And this flexible resources speaks about like you can host your application at multiple AWS services, like a web app can be installed or can be deployed on EC2 instance, or can be deployed on BidStacks, or can also be made a serverless architecture using lambdas, containers and all. And this automatical servers updates and upgrades. So this speaks about like whenever whenever you are considering, for example, EC2 instance. Okay, so whenever you choose an operating system, let us say Amazon Linux. Okay, so updates and upgrades to that machine images will be automatically done, or will be given by the Amazon vendor itself. You need not to worry of installing anything. You just need to upgrade or patch your instances, but all the upgrades and updates, licensing costs, and everything which comes under your pay-as-you-go model. Okay, we'll be discussing that pay-as-you-go model, but this speaks about that. And data loss prevention. So as we discussed, so because of this multiple availability or hosting your application in multiple zones or something, so we are not we are having a most available of your data. We are having less data loss. Okay, and we'll be having a lot of collaboration between the applications and between the users, and between, like, for example, there are multiple applications hosted across the globe. Okay, they can speak across their applications using some API methods, or using some REST API calls. They can also set up some Lambda gateways, especially on AWS. They can communicate using some JSON payloads, and a lot of collaboration, not only on the application level due to this cloud computing. So we are having a much and much collaboration between the teams, which always makes it more reliable and making your application more readily available to the market. Okay, so we'll be dealing all these terms in AWS, as well as once we have a DevOps lifecycle. So I'll be explaining the DevOps lifecycle in detail, where we'll be having 7 to 8 stages, where a couple of stages are responsible by a DevOps engineer, and couple of stages are responsible by a build and release engineer, and couple of stages are really responsible by a developer. Okay, so this training is not only intended for a DevOps engineer, but this trainings majorly for looking where you want to expertise on AWS and DevOps. So majorly we'll be focusing on the DevOps parts, but you can just take the key items where you can just start working directly building application on AWS as well. Okay, is it okay, Prakash? Okay. Yep. Okay. So coming back to traditional servers versus cloud computing. Okay. So as we already spoke on this traditional servers and cloud computing. So Prakash, can you just go on mute? Yep. There is a bit of disturbance over right now. Yep. Thank you so much. Okay. So coming back to this. So the traditional servers, as you see, this is having the client infrastructure. So this is the cloud computing what we generally have, and these are the traditional infrastructures we used to have previously. Okay, so these are the server rooms, nothing but the server computers where your application has been hosted, and using this internet URL you used to access this application. So these are physically present at a location, only at a single location or a single server room. Let us say, for example, your company is situated at Hyderabad. So I'm just talking about the traditional computing which used to happen earlier. Okay, so your company is located at Hyderabad, and your application will be served only from Hyderabad. So in Hyderabad, in a particular office, they used to have a server rooms with all the computers like this, which used to connect to the servers. and which used to connect to some disk, which is nothing but some databases, something like that, and using an internet cable. So it can be the internet service providers. They used to connect to the internet, and the external users used to hit this URL and they used to get all this data. Okay, so let us say, for example, the challenges what people used to face is the major challenges. Who is going to maintain this? Point number one. And second thing is, what if there is an outage in Hyderabad location? Okay, so in that particular scenarios, companies have worked on implementing this infrastructure on a shared model. Like, for example, if you are going out for a trip to a particular location called, you're going out for a trip for Bangalore. So if you are staying for a couple of days, you don't need to own a house for staying there. You just rent it and just pay for the rent and just do all your work and you'll be back. Okay, in the similar fashion, so this cloud computing has been evolved. Like for example, your application needs to be hosted for a year or a couple of years. So you'll just rent that infrastructure from the vendors. It can be AWS, it can be Azure, it can be GCP, DigitalOcean, whatever it is, the cloud vendors who are there. You'll just rent that infrastructure using an internet. You'll just connect to the application. You'll just build the service. So you can just have a runtime and then you can just have a storage like disks or anything, and you can just have your securities and everything implemented on that particular stuff. Okay, so this removes the overhead of maintaining all this particular stuff and makes it more available, a lot of cost efficient. Okay, so I've seen people saving more than 70 to 80% of costs on this cloud computing by shifting from on-premise to cloud. Okay, so they have a lot of options on this. They need not to worry on developing the cloud services. Okay, the applications utilizes the cloud services and just only think or understand on the business use cases. Okay, so that's what we spoke about on this. So traditional servers having fixed limited scalability and capacity and the investment hardware and maintenance and all. And in the cloud servers, we always have this virtualized resources. So we'll deal with this virtualized concept in detail, like what is virtualization and like why we call it as virtualized, because which is already present, but we call it as virtual because it's not available physically at our location. We are accessing the resource at a remote location. Okay. Yep. So there is also a thing of scalability. We'll discuss in detail. There are certain concepts of multi-availability zone on databases or auto scalings on EC2 servers. There are also some kind of failovers on what do you say in Route 53s. There are also a lot of things that speaks about the scalability. So scalability is nothing but the ability to scale based on demand. Okay, like for example, let us say you are inviting let us say for example some amount of people to a particular function if you are hosting. Okay, let us say you are having 100 chairs in the room. Okay, if the invitees are 200, you should have the ability to increase your capacity of chairs to 200. Okay, and if there are only 50, you should have the ability to decrease and make it only to 50. Okay, in the similar fashion, scalability is nothing but to grow and to shrink based on the demand or based on the input payloads or based on the traffic you are getting. Okay, and disaster recovery we already spoke, like ability to recover if there is any disaster, and the managed services or nothing but you always get all the services as a service on AWS. It's not like whenever you're speaking with of EC2, you don't need to use or you don't need to install or build or anything on EC2, you just start using those. Okay, and this built-in redundancy, we'll just speak in detail on this, but redundancy is something like hosting it at multiple zones and all. So all these concepts are more or less interrelated, but everything has its own different definition and own different usage. We'll be dealing in detail. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So this is again what is cloud computing, which we have already discussed, like cloud computing, which have cost savings, which have security, which have loss prevention, which have increased collaboration, which have a lot of quality control, which have insights and centralized data security. All these topics which I've just picked as an example, but there will be a lot of benefits of cloud computing. So let me switch to the next one. So what is AWS and why it is so popular? So till now we have just understood like what is this cloud servers and like why and all. So just understand like why this, what is this AWS and why it became so popular in just like more less than like 10 years or something. Because in 2012 I see mostly people started using AWS most widely. Okay, before that AWS exists, but people were not using most widely. Okay, post that this came into existence after AWS has stabilized more than 100 to 150 services, and they just made it public. Okay, so EC2 was one of the first among them, and then it has spanned about now I think there are more than 380 resources or services on AWS that are readily available for a user or a professional or a business enterprise to start utilizing it. Okay, so this AWS is nothing but Amazon Web Services. So this speaks about like what is Amazon Web Service, like why it is so popular and all. So this have a user-friendly approach. So I've been working on a couple of cloud vendors as well. So this AWS has been having a good rich amount of console UI where you can do all the tasks which you want to build for an infrastructure. Okay, and you have the offerings for a business, for a professional, for a learner, for a student, and an individual. So you can, when you are signing up, you can check those options and sign up. Okay, and you have also like for example, if you got stuck for using this AWS by implementing a service. So it has enough very rich documentation, which we'll be seeing in detail when we go deeper into each and every service. So I'll show how you should go into the documentation and learn how to get the content from there, because it's not like there are like more than in an average you work more than 10 to 15 services on your day-to-day life on a project. So it's not like you can remember everything of a particular service, of every command and a feature and an attribute. You should understand, you should start get associated with using that documentation. Okay, so you should go through the documentation, understand what are the latest updates and how you're going to utilize those and all. Okay, so because of that you need to have a lot of community support. uh, you can, like for example, you are having an issue, you can just go to AWS community support and just type the use case. You can find a lot of similar use cases with some implementations, questions raised, answered. We generally call it as I think it's a AWS repost where people will be hosting this all the questions and all. You can answer your question, and in a day or so there will be a lot of people like us who work on a community just answer those questions. Okay, so that this, because of this strong community support, you will be having a lot of interaction between the users and the community and all. You'll find almost 90 to 95% of the answers across the internet, because the implementation what you are doing, which might be already been done, because we always go for a best practice. So that best practice will already been done somewhere. Okay, so that's why AWS has become more popular, because the knowledge is being shared across the locations. Okay, so it's offer a wide range of cloud services which we deal in detail, and like it always has a pay as go pricing option. Like for example, this flexible pricing option speaks about that pay as you go. So we'll see like what is this pay as go module, and we will see like how you are going to estimate the cost of a particular service, which we'll see in detail. And it also has a strong and compliance security and compliance features. So there are a couple of services where we need to think on, like how you are going to establish a strong set of security between the applications and the users and all. So we'll be seeing those services in details, like security groups, access control lists and all. So we'll be seeing all those things in detail. And this has like extensive developer and community support, which we have already spoke. So you can just have raise a support use case when you are working on a project. So if your account is a AWS business enterprise, you can directly raise a support case to AWS, and one of the technical expert from Amazon will be assigning for this use case, and they'll answer your call, and they'll explain and almost make you understand where you have got stuck, and they'll explain about the service. So this is how you need to, this community support and this extensive developer and community support is something which is very important and very keen when you are working in a real-time projects. Okay, and it's also adapted across a lot of business use cases. So I've seen almost every industry is using Amazon. there is no industry that Amazon is not being used. So there's a lot of industries that already is completely on Amazon. They've started using that, and they're more like flexible on using it. Okay, so I'll halt here for a moment for any questions, Prakash. Sorry. Okay, your voice is a little bit feeble. I'll take it offline. Okay, so this is AWS free tier account creating. So let me get there. So you can just directly go over here and start like AWS free tier account. Sorry, I did not get your point. Yes, yes, we can do that. I'm just waiting for the link. Okay, there might be issues on the internet. Let me switch the internet, Prakash. Just give me a moment. Okay, so when you get into this AWS Management Console, okay, you can just sign into the console, or you can just create a free tier account. I already have a sign in, so I'll just directly go ahead and sign in, or else you can just directly go ahead and create AWS free tier account. Okay, so this is how it looks like once you create the account. It asks for account ID and something. We'll just see in detail because this is how I've set up, but rather you can just go, just click on this AWS free cloud computing services. Okay, so create a free account. Okay, this is how you can just go ahead. There is some issue at my internet, but usually it should not take much time. So just provide your email address, some account name as if your choice, and just verify and just go ahead. It will ask us a couple of items where, like for example, your credit card details and all. Yeah, and also it will be deducted a rupee or something, I guess. Then it will be credited back. Just try using, yeah, just try using that. And if you have any issues on this, you can just post on the channel, which the link where I give for the video, I'll just respond there. Okay, so coming back to this, that's how you just create a free tier account. So once that free tier account has been created, so we'll just see how we can start utilizing the services. Okay, so coming back to this overview, so we'll just have this overview on AWS products and services now. So we'll be dealing with most of the compute and storage services in detail. Okay, and we will start utilizing either of the databases for now. Okay, so just a second. I will do this properly now. Okay, so we'll be dealing with most computing services. So we'll be dealing with EC2, and majorly we'll also dealing with Lambda. We'll be dealing with some kind of what do you say, elastic bean stacks, and we'll be dealing with ECS containers, EKS Kubernetes clusters, and we'll also dealing with a couple of compute services based on the use case, and we'll also dealing with just a second. Okay, so on this computing services, so we'll start with EC2, then we'll jump into Lambda, and we will, whenever we are using this EC2 service, we'll have a link between the storage, database, and some kind of developer tools. And this training will not have more learnings on this machine learning and AI. Because there will be another series of training that we'll be launching, especially on this machine learning and AI tools with AWS and machine learning training series, where we'll be dealing most of this stuff. And we'll be dealing with some networking things for sure, and we'll be dealing with security and identity as well. And we'll be touch basing like couple of databases like PostgreSQL, or we'll be touch basing some Amazon Aurora or Amazon Athena, or some kind of RDS stuff we'll be seeing, and we will see how this databases, storage, and compute together have the connectivity and build for an application. Okay, and we are also not dealing with Internet of Things, but we'll be dealing with developing tools, developer tools like code build, code commit, and code deploy, and some kind of cloud formation. So we'll be dealing with developer tools as well. Okay. Perfect. So that's majorly for today's session. So we will start with an assignment post this. So I'll be sharing this assignment to you, Prakash, over the channel, and you can just start working on this. So as of now, you can start working on this assignment, and every assignment should be clearly written in the form of a PDF and upload it into the GitHub. So uploading GitHub and using Git, everything I'll be giving an overview as a separate session. But for now, just forget about how you're going to do it on the GitHub and all. Just come up with the solution for the assignment and all, like providing some, for example, list down the services and all. You can just list down the basic services and just explore cloud vendors, and like what is your understanding, you can just place there and explore the AWS documentation. Just place some attributes or the features, whatever you found, and just start exploring on GitHub and Linux OS. So my assignments will be some of the learning base and some of the some of the things that you need to do, because I'll be giving some learnings so that if you come up with some learning of that particular tool before in hand the training starts, your understanding will be more rich and more clear, because you'll not be having some doubts or something about what does this tool does. Because if I miss something, some basic topics, because I've been working since long, so I might miss some basic topics of this particular tool, a basic definition of like what does this do and all. If I jump directly into the topic, so it might give a little bit of gap between your concept and between your real-time understanding. So always I'll just ask you to just start and explore, like just go to internet, type of that particular tool, just read what does the tool do. Okay, just so this is the assignment for the today. So I'll be sharing on the chat, you can just start working. So I'll need a PDF for this. In the next session I'll give an overview of the Git, or I'll start with Git, and then we will go for AWS servers like EC2 and all, because this Git is more important for doing your day-to-day activities and submitting your assignments and all. So I'll just give an overview of Git, but the clear implementation of the version control and what is this version control and all, we will go in detail when we get into DevOps. Okay, makes sense. I'll be sharing this. So this is a more simple call for today, but tomorrow on we'll just go on a step by step into more deeper, where we'll start understanding how the things go. Okay. Cloud vendors are nothing but AWS, Azure, GCP, DigitalOcean, Snowflake, something like that. Okay. Just come up with your solutions. We can discuss and we can understand, so that you'll be more clear on the stuff.